Well, guys, today President Trump kicked off his state visit to the UK by traveling to Windsor Castle to meet with King Charles. Yep, today Trump met with King Charles, and tomorrow he'll meet with Harry Potter to make the Epstein files disappear.
Jimmy Fallon stepped onto his stage with the kind of energy that signaled something unusual was about to happen. The host, often associated with playful impressions, quirky games, and light-hearted celebrity banter, had been simmering beneath the surface as political tensions boiled over. But on this particular night, he chose not to hide behind skits or impressions. Instead, he addressed the subject dominating American politics: President Donald Trump's chaotic return to the White House after defeating Kamala Harris in the bruising election. Fallon did not simply poke fun. He launched into a full-throttle takedown that blended his signature humor with an unmistakable edge of outrage. For a man known to prefer the lighter side of late-night entertainment, the shift was jarring, and it riveted audiences across the country. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. The timing of Fallon's sharp attack couldn't have been more striking. Only a few months into Trump's second presidency, chaos was already defining the administration. Headlines swirled with accounts of policy confusion, infighting among advisors, and erratic statements from the president that left allies scrambling to explain. Fallon captured this atmosphere with comedic exaggeration, but underneath the laughter lay a very real critique. He painted a picture of an administration adrift, one that seemed more concerned with spectacle than governance. To viewers, the familiar late-night comfort zone had suddenly turned into a forum for biting commentary, and Fallon's choice to focus on Trump's behavior rather than the endless churn of policy proposals made his message hit harder. The heart of Fallon's attack revolved around the personal contradictions Trump had once again brought to the surface. Reports were already circulating about alleged secret affairs that undermined his public marriage to Melania. Fallon took these stories and threaded them into a broader narrative of hypocrisy, questioning how a man so quick to tout family values could simultaneously undermine them with reckless behavior. For the audience, this was not just another celebrity scandal. It was the leader of the free world, carrying the weight of public responsibility, caught in a swirl of accusations that seemed to confirm old suspicions. Fallon's tone carried disbelief and disgust, as if to say that after everything witnessed in the first term, the country was once again walking down the same rocky road. The comedic stage transformed into a place of cultural reflection. Fallon's jabs were not just punchlines, but reminders of how far the political climate had shifted. In previous decades, presidents often received respectful satire, softened by an underlying sense of reverence for the office. What Fallon delivered was closer to an unmasking, a stripping away of pretenses. By mocking the president's vanity, his obsession with image, and his apparent inability to avoid scandal, Fallon was pointing towards something deeper, a national weariness with the theater of politics when real challenges were piling up outside the White House gates. The laughter in the studio audience carried an edge, a mix of amusement and frustration that reflected the mood of a nation unsure of its footing. What made Fallon's performance particularly powerful was the way he blurred the line between entertainment and moral outrage. His words suggested he was not just a host cracking jokes, but a citizen stunned at the absurdity of it all. He captured the frustration many felt about Trump's apparent disregard for decorum, his disregard for the expectations of leadership, and his tendency to treat the presidency like a stage for personal drama. Fallon highlighted the contrast between the president's promises of order and strength and the chaotic reality spilling into every headline. For many watching, it felt as though Fallon had articulated what they had been struggling to put into words: the disillusionment of watching history repeat itself, this time with even more intensity. The weight of Fallon's monologue also lay in the way it reframed Trump's early months back in office as déjà vu. The country had seen this movie before. Tweets turned into political crises, aides clashing over direction, global leaders uncertain how to interpret the president's latest statements. Yet now, with Trump having beaten Kamala Harris and reclaimed power, the stakes felt higher. Fallon's comedic dismantling underlined the absurdity of reliving old dramas when the country was desperate for stability. In his biting style, he reminded viewers that scandals and whispers of affairs were not simply distractions, but symptomatic of a larger pattern of recklessness and disregard for the seriousness of leadership. Fallon also tapped into the unease surrounding Melania Trump. The image of the First Lady, often stoic and reserved, had become a symbol of quiet endurance through waves of scandal. By pointing to the alleged secret affairs, Fallon implicitly raised questions about what it meant to hold together a public marriage under the glare of global scrutiny. While he treated the subject with the irreverence of comedy, the underlying tension was unmistakable. The president's personal choices were not merely private matters, but part of the public conversation, shaping how Americans perceive the character of their leader. Fallon's humor served to puncture the veneer of glamour and expose the human fallout behind the headlines. For Fallon himself, this sharp dive into political critique represented a personal evolution. In the past, he had often been criticized for avoiding hard political satire, preferring games with guests and musical sketches over biting commentary. But by unleashing his frustration on Trump, he signaled that the stakes had risen too high for avoidance. Viewers who had once dismissed Fallon as apolitical suddenly saw him wielding humor as a weapon. The significance of this shift went beyond late-night television. It reflected how even the most lighthearted corners of American culture were being drawn into the national reckoning with Trump's leadership. Fallon's stage became another battlefield where narratives of power, integrity, and scandal were contested. The cultural impact of Fallon's takedown was amplified by the timing of Trump's political resurgence. Having defeated Kamala Harris in a bitter campaign, Trump re-entered the White House with an air of vindication. His supporters celebrated his return as proof that his brand of politics still resonated, while his critics braced for another round of turmoil. Fallon's commentary channeled that bracing anticipation, highlighting not only what had already unfolded, but also what many feared would come. The accusations of secret affairs served as a metaphor for the broader sense of instability, the feeling that the foundations of trust and leadership were being chipped away once again. At the heart of Fallon's attack was a sense of incredulity that Trump, despite everything, had returned to power and almost immediately become engulfed in scandal. Fallon dramatized the absurdity of it, painting a picture of a presidency that seemed incapable of escaping its own self-inflicted wounds. The humor landed because it resonated with what many were already thinking. How could a man elected to lead the nation so quickly spiral back into the same controversies? Fallon's stage, often associated with escapism, became a mirror of national exasperation, reflecting back the disbelief that history was repeating itself with startling speed. In the studio, the laughter at Fallon's jokes carried a different flavor. It was not the carefree laughter of distraction, but the knowing laughter of recognition. The audience, much like the country at large, was grappling with the reality of a presidency that seemed perpetually at odds with its own promises. Fallon's timing, tone, and delivery channeled that recognition into catharsis. By laughing at the absurdity, viewers could momentarily relieve the tension of living through it. Yet the message beneath the humor lingered, reminding everyone that laughter alone would not solve the deeper crises unfolding in Washington. As the segment continued, Fallon wove his humor into larger themes of accountability. The accusations of multiple secret affairs were not just gossip fodder. They symbolized a broader disregard for honesty and transparency. Fallon's comedic framing suggested that if a leader could not maintain trust in the most intimate aspects of life, how could they be expected to maintain trust in matters of state? The joke, in this sense, carried a serious undertone, blurring the line between entertainment and civic critique. By framing personal scandal as a metaphor for public dysfunction, Fallon underscored the erosion of faith in leadership that had become a hallmark of Trump's presidency. What Fallon unleashed that night was more than a monologue. It was an indictment framed through comedy. The absurdity of Trump's early months back in office was laid bare in ways that cut through political jargon and policy debates. Fallon's audience, diverse in background and political leanings, was united in the moment by laughter that doubled as exasperation. The segment demonstrated how cultural spaces like late-night television could serve as powerful vehicles for processing national discontent. Through humor, Fallon articulated what many felt but struggled to express: the fatigue of watching a leader prioritize spectacle over substance, scandal over stability. The implications of Fallon's attack stretched far beyond the walls of his studio. By targeting Trump so directly, he joined a broader chorus of voices using entertainment platforms to confront political realities. His takedown highlighted the porous boundaries between politics and culture, showing how leadership scandals could not be contained within press briefings or political rallies, but spilled into every corner of public life. Fallon's humor functioned as a form of cultural resistance, a way of reminding viewers that laughter could be both a release and a critique. In a moment when political fatigue threatened to dull the senses, Fallon reignited attention by making the absurdity impossible to ignore. Fallon's performance also underscored how Trump's presidency continued to serve as a cultural Rorschach test. For supporters, the accusations of affairs and the chaos of his early months could be dismissed as media exaggeration or irrelevant distractions. For critics, they confirmed every fear about his character and leadership. Fallon's humor leaned into the latter perspective, but its resonance with his audience revealed how deeply divided the country remained. The studio's laughter echoed across living rooms as both entertainment and commentary, leaving viewers to decide whether to take it as mere comedy or as a serious statement about the state of the nation. Even without explicitly predicting consequences, Fallon's commentary illuminated the precariousness of the political moment. By exposing the absurdity of Trump's behavior so early in his second term, Fallon hinted at the turbulence still to come. The accusations of secret affairs, the chaotic governance, and the return of familiar controversies all painted a picture of a presidency teetering on instability. Fallon's choice to focus on these elements through humor made the situation both bearable and unforgettable, ensuring that audiences would carry the image of dysfunction with them long after the laughter faded. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on Jimmy Fallon confronting Trump after election win? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching and see you next time.